Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So today I'm going to analyze a latest game that happened between Magnus Carlsen and Aryan Nepomniacchi. Sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. So, so this happened. I think it was just yesterday in the Norway Chess Championship Armageddon. So Magnus, as you can see him, he's been crushing the tournament so good. He took his revenge on Duda. I think he won two matches with him, and but now we have Nepo, the world chess champion competitor, against Magnus. I think they both played. I think a couple of two matches. So I think this is the one where Magnus took the lead. So Magnus with the white pieces opens with knight f3. We have in the reti on the board, and Nepo also responds with knight f6. We have g3 from Magnus. Maybe Magnus is planning to, I think, put his bishop on g2 and ready to castles. The king's Indian. And we have d5 from Nepo. Maybe since Magnus isn't pushing pawns, maybe Nepo realizes like maybe I can push pawns and grab some more space. So bishop to g2 from Magnus. Magnus is ready to castle on king side. So we have g6 from Nepo. Maybe Nepo is also ready to put his bishop on this diagonal. Maybe castle. So castles from Magnus, we have bishop to g6. So we have c4 from Magnus. Maybe I think this is one of those what you call gambit moves where you gambit a pawn for free and then but you can't claim claim it back when you have an advantage. So of course grandmasters don't take these moves for granted. So Nepo pushes c6. We have b3 from Magnus. Maybe Magnus is also ready to put his bishop on c2 and maybe trade of the dark square bishops. So we have knight to e4 from Nepo. The bishop is attacking this undefended rook. So Magnus sees this and he pushes d4, cutting off the diagonal. We have castles from the king side, castles from Nepo, and we have bishop to b2. Maybe just so maybe the queen can move, and the bishop and the knight are doing a good job protecting this pawn. So we have a5 from Nepo. Maybe Nepo is looking to push his pawn further and grab more space on the queen side. So we have knight to c3, challenging the black's knight. What are you going? So Magnus Nepo waits and he defends with the bishop. So we have a e3 from Magnus. Maybe Magnus wants to bring his knight back, and maybe just so maybe he wants to attack on from this side. So we have captures. We traded a piece of knights on the board. So we have bishop to e4. The bishop with this the bishop is connected with this pawn chain. So Magnus also moves his queen to e2, connecting the rooks. Maybe Magnus wants to bring his rook to c1, which he actually does to protect the the bishop, just so in case. So Nepo pushes his pawn further to grab more space. So Magnus simply defends his bishop. So we have takes. So we got a good number of pieces traded. We got a rook pieces traded, a pair of rooks traded on the board. So Nepo moves his queen to b6, attacking this undefended b3 pawn. Magnus sees it and pushes it further. Now Magnus is ready to push c5 and attack the knight, and this would become a strong chain. Because these pawns are like such monsters. So Nepo sees this, but he continues with his development, and Magnus attacks the queen. Of course, queen moves back. We have rook to a7, putting pressure on this. You know, b7 pawn. So Nepo sees it and is like, okay, I'm going to attack your rook now. What are you going to do? So Magnus simply defends his rook with queen e2. So takes. We have bishop captures the knight and bishop captures bishop. Now this may be good for Magnus because Magnus need not worry about any back rank mates because now his king can move to g2 and just be very safe. So we have e5 striking the center from Nepo. So pawn to b5. Maybe if this pawn furthers more, and we have this monstrous connecting 5 pawn chain. So Magnus, I'm sorry. So Nepo says this, and he's trying to limit the bishop by locking the position. Bishop goes back and then takes. So I think for the first time when I saw this move, I think it's a clean. I thought it was a clean blunder, but no, but it's not because the knight and the pawn can't capture on the knight because the bishop hangs. The white square, the white dark squared bishop hangs. So Magnus, I think he waited here for a moment and he played bishop b4. Now this is a very good move because the knight now can't move because otherwise, black withdraws his rook. This is rook. So now Nepo saw this and okay, well I'm going to disconnect your connection with the queen. So even if you take my rook, I can take your knight. But then Magnus is like, okay, I can take your bishop again. So takes. I'm sorry for that. So takes, and Magnus is like, okay, my rook isn't doing nothing. So even if you grab on, take my b7 rook. I'm just going to take it with my queen, which actually happened in the game. So now Nepo shouldn't capture on this queen because after pawn captures, the pawn can advance and can become a queen. So Nepo sees this and he pushes his queen back, just waiting, coming for the waiting moment. So we have captures on c6. So now Nepo is ready for the queen trade because if white captures and bishop captures, and if maybe this pawn moves further, so the black doesn't need to worry about anything because this is perfectly and simply defended by the bishop. So this is actually what happened in the game. So takes, and we have a rook to bishop to d1. Magnus is maybe he's planning to come here and maybe attack this pawn. So Nepo just defends this b5 monster pawn, and Magnus plays b3 to attack this pawn, and Nepo should have started bringing his king into the game, which he does. So now takes, and we have this pawn chain again from black. So Magnus sees this and he doesn't like it. He likes to ruin his pawn chain. He plays g4. The plan is if black captures it, I'm going to capture this one. So this would be simply winning for white. So Nepo brings his king further into the game, just so is like if I have any chances to pick up any pawns. So Magnus moves his pawn h4. Maybe he's also trying to advance this and ruin his chain structure. So Nepo says this and he moves further. There's no way for your both pawns. So Magnus brings this king into the game. So the bishop here, he does a nice job, cutting the king off on this diagonal. But the king has still this beautiful square where he can go so. And he played a d8 just so maybe even if the black king can move, The bishop will have an eye on this and this square, just so to stop this monster. So we have a pawn to h5, breaking the chain. So we have captures, 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 captures with check. So Magnus, both players traded two pawns, and Magnus Magnus captured an extra pawn with check. King comes down, and we have f4. The plan is, even if Nepo takes it with ampersand here with check, which the king can capture here, and white is simply winning, because even there's no need, white should worry about this pawn, because even the king can move, and the bishop is pointing at this h1, so there's no way white will queen, black will queen. So Nepo sees this and he goes back. Now all these five, freaking squares are controlled by these beautiful pawns and bishop. So the king has no chance to enter these squares. So Magnus attacks g4. Nepo defends it. King moves further to h4, looking to take down a defending pawn. So we have bishop to a5 from Nepo. Maybe come here and pick up these dark square pawns, because in such endgames where your pawns are all on dark squares, it is usual to have a dark square bishop, because you can pick up all the dark square pawns. So Magnus sees this and he doesn't want to, ruin his three pawns for a single monster pawn. So he decides to sacrifice his pawn. So even if he takes, Magnus can take here, and there's no way you can defend this pawn. Maybe white can move here, defend this pawn, and white is simply just winning here. I think after this move, Nepo has resigned the game, because they think there's nothing more to be done, because these two pawns are dead. The white king is doing anything on the board. He should have. I mean, the black king is doing nothing on the board. So the bishop is on the dark square. We have these two light square pawns. So I hope you guys enjoyed the game. Please like and subscribe for much more games. For me, I love this game. I think there's one more between them, where it took to a draw. So I'll analyze that game soon. Thank you.